Well, gentlemen, as we stand here, 40 centimeters of snow is just falling down the Montreal region right now. But that did not stop Team Canada. Well, 6 of the players coming out for the optional skate today. And of course, we see Nathan MacKinnon and Sidney Crosby less than 24 hours after the overtime win last night, leading the charge here. The first ones out on the ice, getting some time in to work on their skills.
This answers the question. If you wondered, how did 2 players this great come from the same small part of the world in Cole Harbour, Nova Scotia, this gives you some insight into how they've gotten there. And obviously, this is the habits that they've instilled for many, many years. I mean, I think Crosby speaks for himself, but even Nathan MacKinnon, I remember when Colorado was in the Cup final a couple years ago in Tampa, they had an off day where it was an optional skate, and he was the only one out there just working on his shot. And that was like 190 days or 200 days into a season. This is what these guys have done to become who they are. And in this case, I think that they're obviously playing a lot together at 5-on-5. They're looking at aspects of that game and wanting to fine-tune things. And on some level, this might not be conscious, might be more unconscious, but they're leading this team by, they looked out their hotel window as we did this morning. They didn't have to come out here to the suburbs of Montreal, but here they are.
I think it's driven by a couple of things, right? Like, I think they appreciate the moment they're in, and they know their chance to play together is going to be fleeting, right? Although I'm sure Avalanche fans would hope maybe there's an outside chance.
Don't start rumors here.
Not going to start that, but I think it's driven by that. But it's also driven by the idea that they want to be better, and they want to find different ways to do it. CJ, like, what was really interesting to me is when you look at what they came out to work on. At first, it's not really obvious stuff. It's like little things. Like MacKinnon was kind of dribbling pucks around the wall, and Crosby was kind of taking him on his backhand, turning and firing him into the middle of the ice where there was nobody there. They did like 10 or 15 of these, and then they did this other thing where they were like dribbling it around behind the net, and Sid was practicing taking it off his skates and throwing it in the middle of the ice, and nobody was there. Just minute details, and we've seen this before from Crosby. He'll find little areas of his game that he didn't love. He'll zero in on them the next day and fixate the next day. And so everybody given the option to come out here today, these two, they rode together out here on a 10 a.m. bus after being the last ones doing the media press conference last night. It wrapped up like 12:15 or something like that. So it's pretty impressive.
Yeah, it kind of feels like they took a page out of their Nova Scotia handbook from their morning skates that they have in the summer, right? Instead of being at the BMO Center in Bedford, they just were taking to the ice today with a few pucks, working together. They kind of like picking up where they left off in the summertime.
I love how at the end of it, they just sort of bent over and picked up the pucks together. Like a couple kids on an outdoor rink, like time to go home. They just packed the puck bucket full and off they go.
I had a coach that once said that it's an honor to be the one to put the pucks in the bucket. Like, you should always take great pride in that. So maybe that's how they approach it. We don't know. Travis Sanheim did make a good point today too when he took stepped onto the bus and he saw MacKinnon and Crosby, and he had that comment up, I thought these guys were going to take a soak here today. No, they were on the ice. Meanwhile, for him, a lot more in his ice time today, because it looks as though he will be in this lineup for Team Canada moving forward.
Well, he 100% will, because Canada can't add anybody else as long as he's healthy here. And so he is part of the 6 defensemen the Canadians have. And at this point, Hockey Canada is still working through its options with Shea Theodore now done for this tournament. But they have been able to put a player on standby who isn't here. They can't bring that individual into Montreal or even to Boston unless they suffer another injury on their back end. But they've identified that player. I have yet to figure out who it is, but I've been told whoever it is has returned to North America already.
Start checking Instagram feeds. See if we can figure it
Who
out.
left the beach,
We can presume that person is obviously going to start skating and getting of a mind that they might have to come in. But in the meantime, Travis Sanheim is here, knows he's going to have to be part of the lineup on Saturday and going forward for this team. And, it probably helps. He plays as a left shot defenseman, often on the right side in Philadelphia. I would suspect he'll be on the left side here. But part of the reason he was added to this team is because he plays all situations and plays both sides.
Can you clarify, too, what the rule is as to when they would actually be able to add another defenseman? Like, they need at least one more guy, or is it 2 more guys injured before they can bring somebody in?
It's been a floating target. Where it stands as of right now is it's just 1 more defenseman went down. So even if they would still have a healthy extra forward, Canada would be allowed to bring another defenseman in. Now, that person can't come in early. They can't skate with a team. They can't be part of meetings. So they're on an island, so to speak, although they're not on an island. But they're all alone somewhere. And, knowing that they might be here, they'll be watching the game probably even more closely than us, because if there's an injury, they're on the next plane.
So this is interesting. They're not going to get everything right. This is kind of a one-off event, but this one is interesting to me, guys, because I think they're wanting to protect players from them having this massive roster and guys that wouldn't be playing and involved. But if you think about this, if you're a Team Canada defenseman right now, and you're maybe a little bit nicked up, if you're maybe a little bit banged up, at this event, maybe it'd be a situation where you take a step back. But if you know you're going to make your team shorthanded in that way, you're probably going to play through some stuff. So I think the intention to protect the players, I get it, but for the guys that are here, that are playing, they're going to do everything they can to play through whatever comes their way, and that's not an ideal situation.
Sam Bennett kind of made the comment today that, you know, if his name gets called, he'll be ready to go. But regardless, he said, I'm just happy to be here, even if it is just sitting and watching these games. To be a part of this group, he said it means a lot to him.
For sure.
That's always nice to hear.
My perception, like, I think Team Canada felt like, obviously it wasn't perfect. You don't want to let leads get away. But a lot of what they tried actually worked pretty good, CJ. I don't know if we're going to see a ton of changes heading into the next game. I think that the line combinations all seem to come together fairly well. My perception is they're reasonably happy with the way it went and feel like they probably got a lot right out of the from the outset.
Right. Well, and you have Sidney Crosby telling teammates the fastest game he's ever played in. I mean, we know the kind of games he's played in. Connor McDavid said he's never had more fun on the ice to some teammates. I mean, that's the feedback out of that game is, yes, there's not going to be perfect, but how can it be perfect at this level? And, you know, we're not going to learn till Friday's practice probably what the lineup is, what, you know, how everything fits together. But I wonder about Sam Bennett if he finds a spot in that USA game on Saturday, just with his ability to forecheck, finish checks. I mean, we all want to see him go head-to-head with Matthew Tkachuk. Obviously, his brother at arms in Florida, but they've had to, you know, change allegiances here. I mean, I think that will be a much more physical game. And if they look to make a change lineup-wise, wouldn't be surprised. A
more physical game. That first game, were you guys as surprised as I was? I mean, Nate MacKinnon throws the huge hit on the first shift, and it was kind of like, oh, okay, I guess they're going to do that. And it was really physical.
It was awesome.
He was the most physical in the first period. That's what struck my eye. The speed, of course, but the way MacKinnon was laying the body on certainly caught my attention. Well, as we mentioned, Canada will have one more practice tomorrow. Of course, their Saturday night game against the United States. So we'll get a better idea as to lineup combinations where Sanheim fits in on the blue line here for Team Canada. But as for the 6 players that came out today, you got to give it to them. We learned a lot about the character and leadership of players like Sidney Crosby and Nathan MacKinnon.